Remember when TV was appointment viewing? When families gathered around the living room every week, fighting over the remote control that was probably attached to the TV by a 6-foot cord? Yeah, we remember those days too. Back in the 1980s, television wasn't just entertainment, it was a cultural phenomenon that shaped an entire generation. Today, we're counting down the 80s TV shows that didn't just entertain us, they completely changed the game. These weren't just hit shows. They were television revolutionaries that rewrote the rules and influenced everything that came after. Now, before we dive into this nostalgic deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe because we won't waste your time. Like network executives wasted our Saturday mornings with terrible cartoons. Trust us, this list is going to bring back some serious memories. Let's jump into our countdown, starting with number 7. Family Ties, 1982 to 1989. Hey Dad, can I borrow the car keys to the future? Coming in at number 7 is Family Ties, the sitcom that accidentally created one of the most iconic characters in television history. The show was supposed to be about liberal baby boomer parents dealing with the changing times, but then Michael J. Fox showed up as their conservative Republican son, Alex P. Keaton, and everything changed. What made Family Ties revolutionary was how it flipped the traditional family sitcom dynamic on its head. Instead of rebellious kids clashing with conservative parents, we had a rebellious conservative kid clashing with liberal parents. It was a brilliant commentary on the generational divide of the 1980s, and it resonated with audiences who were living through the same cultural shifts. But the real game changer was Michael J. Fox's performance as Alex. Here was a teenage character who wasn't just comic relief or a source of family problems, he was the intellectual equal of the adults around him. Alex had strong political opinions, complex motivations, and genuine depth. He wasn't just a kid, he was a fully realized character who happened to be young. This approach to writing teenage characters would influence sitcoms for decades. Shows like The Cosby Show, Growing Pains, and even modern series like Modern Family owe a debt to how Family Ties treated its young characters as real people with real ideas. The show also tackled serious issues in ways that hadn't been done before in family sitcoms. Episodes dealt with alcoholism, death, economic anxiety, and political differences within families. But instead of being preachy or heavy-handed, Family Ties found ways to address these topics with humor and heart. Behind the scenes, the show's success launched Michael J. Fox into superstardom, leading directly to his casting in Back to the Future. But more importantly for television history, it proved that audiences were ready for smarter, more sophisticated family comedies. The writing on Family Ties was sharp and topical, referencing current events and political figures in ways that made the show feel immediate and relevant. This approach to incorporating real-world issues into sitcom storylines became a template that's still used today. Family Ties ran for 7 seasons and won multiple Emmy Awards, but its real legacy is in how it changed the way television portrayed families and young people. It proved that sitcoms could be both funny and intelligent, setting the stage for the golden age of family comedies that would follow. The A-Team, 1983 to 1987. I love it when a plan comes together. Coming in at number 6 is The A-Team, the show that proved you could blow up half of Los Angeles every week and still be family-friendly entertainment. But don't let all those explosions fool you. The A-Team was actually a revolutionary show that changed action television forever. First, let's talk about the violence, or rather, the lack of it. Despite featuring military veterans, automatic weapons, and massive explosions in every episode, the A-Team had a strict no-kill policy. Cars would flip over dramatically, but the bad guys would always crawl out unharmed. Buildings would explode spectacularly, but everyone would escape just in time. This approach was revolutionary because it proved that action shows could be exciting without being genuinely violent. The A-Team found creative ways to stage thrilling action sequences while maintaining a moral code that made the show appropriate for family viewing. This template would influence action shows for decades. The show's structure was also innovative. Each episode followed the same basic formula. Someone in trouble contacts the A-Team, the team investigates, they get captured, they escape, and build something amazing out of random junk, and then they defeat the bad guys. This predictable structure should have been boring, but instead, it became comforting. Audiences knew what to expect, and the fun was in seeing how the team would solve each week's problem. The characters were perfectly archetypal. Hannibal was the leader and master of disguise, Face was the con man, B.A. was the mechanic who feared flying, and Murdoch was the crazy pilot. These weren't complex, nuanced characters. They were larger-than-life personalities that viewers could instantly understand and root for. But here's what made the A-Team truly revolutionary. It was one of the first shows to fully embrace its own absurdity. The writers knew the premise was ridiculous, the action was over the top, and the dialogue was cheesy. Instead of trying to make it realistic, they leaned into the fun and created something that was pure entertainment. This self-aware approach to action television would influence everything from MacGyver to the Fast and the Furious franchise. The A-Team proved that audiences were willing to suspend disbelief if the entertainment value was high enough. Behind the scenes, the show made Mr. T into a household name and proved that ensemble action shows could work on television. The chemistry between the four leads was genuine, and their friendship translated to the screen in ways that made audiences care about these characters despite their cartoonish nature. The A-Team ran for 5 seasons and 98 episodes, spawning a feature film reboot in 2010. But its real legacy is in proving that action television could be fun, family-friendly, and completely over the top all at the same time. Hill Street Blues, 1981 to 1987. Hey, let's be careful out there. At number 5, we have Hill Street Blues, the show that completely revolutionized police dramas and changed the way television told stories. Before Hill Street Blues, cop shows were pretty straightforward. Good guys caught bad guys, cases were solved in an hour, and everything was wrapped up neatly by the end credits. Hill Street Blues threw all of that out the window and created something entirely new: the serialized police drama. Instead of standalone episodes, storylines continued from week to week. Characters had ongoing personal problems that didn't get resolved in a single episode. The precinct felt like a real workplace with real people dealing with real problems. The show's documentary-style filming was revolutionary for its time. The handheld cameras, natural lighting, and overlapping dialogue made viewers feel like they were actually inside a police station. This cinematic approach to television production would influence countless dramas that followed. But what really set Hill Street Blues apart was its moral complexity. The cops weren't perfect heroes. They made mistakes, had personal problems, and sometimes bent the rules. The criminals weren't always pure evil. Some were sympathetic characters caught in bad situations. This gray area approach to storytelling was groundbreaking for network television. The ensemble cast was another innovation. Instead of focusing on one or two main characters, Hill Street Blues gave equal weight to a large cast of regulars. This ensemble approach would become the template for shows like NYPD Blue, The West Wing, and even modern series like The Wire. Hill Street Blues only ran for 6 seasons, but its influence on television drama cannot be overstated. It proved that audiences were ready for more sophisticated storytelling and paved the way for the golden age of television drama that we're still living in today. Miami Vice, 1984 to 1989. No jacket required. Coming in at number 4 is Miami Vice, the show that didn't just change television, it changed fashion, music, and popular culture forever. But beyond the pastel suits and Phil Collins soundtracks, Miami Vice revolutionized how television looked, sounded, and felt. Before Miami Vice, most TV shows looked like, well, TV shows. They were shot on sound stages with standard lighting and conventional camera work. Miami Vice threw all of that out the window and created something that looked more like a feature film than a television series. The show's visual style was revolutionary. The pastel color palette, the neon lighting, the sleek cars, and the glamorous locations created a look that was unlike anything on television. Every frame was carefully composed and lit to create a specific mood and atmosphere. But the real game changer was the music. Miami Vice was the first television show to integrate contemporary pop music into its storytelling in a meaningful way. Instead of using generic background music, the show featured hits from artists like Phil Collins, Glenn Frey, and Jan Hammer. The music wasn't just background, it was part of the narrative. This approach to music in television was revolutionary and would influence everything from the OC to Stranger Things. Miami Vice proved that the right song at the right moment could elevate a scene from good to unforgettable. The show's fashion influence cannot be overstated. Don Johnson's Sonny Crockett popularized the no socks with loafers look, pastel suits, and t-shirts under blazers. This wasn't just costume design, it was a complete aesthetic that influenced men's fashion throughout the 1980s and beyond. Miami Vice ran for 5 seasons and 111 episodes, but its influence extended far beyond its original run. The show's style and approach can be seen in everything from CSI to Breaking Bad, and its integration of music and fashion into storytelling became a template that's still used today. The Cosby Show, 1984 to 1992. Theo, you're not applying yourself. At number 3, we have The Cosby Show, a series that completely revolutionized the family sitcom and changed how America saw itself on television. Now, we know the complicated legacy surrounding Bill Cosby today, but we can't ignore the massive cultural impact this show had on television history. Before The Cosby Show, African American families on television were often portrayed through the lens of struggle and hardship. The Cosby Show flipped this narrative completely by presenting the Huxtables as an upper-middle-class family where the parents were successful professionals. Cliff was a doctor, Claire was a lawyer, and their biggest problems were typical family issues. This representation was revolutionary because it showed African-American families in a way that mainstream television had never done before. The Huxtables weren't defined by their race or by social problems. They were defined by their success, their love for each other, and their commitment to education and family values. The show's approach to parenting was also groundbreaking. Cliff Huxtable wasn't the bumbling father figure that had become standard in sitcoms. He was involved, intelligent, and genuinely interested in his children's lives. This model of engaged fatherhood would influence family sitcoms for decades. What made The Cosby Show truly revolutionary was its massive mainstream success. This wasn't a niche show that appealed only to African-American audiences. It was the #1 show in America for 5 consecutive years. It proved that audiences of all backgrounds were hungry for positive family programming. The show's impact on other television programming was immediate and lasting. It paved the way for other successful shows featuring African-American families like Family Matters, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Blackish. It proved that family sitcoms could be both entertaining and socially significant. The Cosby Show ran for 8 seasons and 201 episodes, consistently ranking as one of the most watched shows on television. Its influence on family programming, representation in media, and American culture cannot be overstated. Cheers, 1982 to 1993. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. At number 2, we have Cheers, the show that proved you could set an entire series in one location and still create television magic. But Cheers didn't just revolutionize the workplace sitcom. It completely changed how television portrayed relationships, community, and the American working class. The genius of Cheers was in its simplicity. The entire show took place in a Boston bar where a group of regulars gathered to drink, argue, and support each other through life's ups and downs. There were no high-concept premises, no gimmicks, no special effects, just great characters and brilliant writing. What made Cheers revolutionary was how it treated its blue-collar characters with respect and intelligence. Sam Malone was a former baseball player turned bartender, but he wasn't portrayed as a dumb jock. Norm Peterson was an accountant and barfly, but his observations about life were often profound. This respectful portrayal of working-class characters was groundbreaking for network television. The show's approach to romantic relationships was also revolutionary. The Sam and Diane relationship wasn't just a will they won't they romance, it was a complex exploration of how 2 very different people could be attracted to each other while being fundamentally incompatible. Their arguments weren't just cute banter, they were genuine conflicts between different worldviews. When Shelley Long left the show after 5 seasons, many thought Cheers was finished. Instead, the writers brought in Kirstie Alley as Rebecca Howe and created an entirely different but equally compelling dynamic. This proved that a show could survive the loss of a major character if the writing and ensemble were strong enough. But what really made Cheers special was how it portrayed community. In an era when Americans were becoming increasingly isolated and disconnected, Cheers showed a group of people who genuinely cared about each other. They might argue and insult each other, but when someone was in real trouble, the group rallied around them. This sense of community became the template for workplace comedies that followed. Shows like The Office, Parks and Recreation, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine all owe a debt to how Cheers portrayed the workplace as a surrogate family. Cheers ran for 11 seasons and 275 episodes, winning 28 Emmy Awards and launching the careers of multiple stars. But its real legacy is in proving that great characters and smart writing could turn the simplest premise into television gold. The show also spawned one of the most successful spin-offs in television history with Frasier, proving that the Cheers universe was rich enough to support multiple series. Dallas, 1978 to 1991. Who Shot JR? And finally, claiming our #1 spot is Dallas, the show that didn't just change television, it created an entirely new form of entertainment that would dominate the medium for decades to come. Dallas invented the primetime soap opera and, in doing so, revolutionized how television told stories, built audiences, and became a cultural phenomenon. Before Dallas, television dramas were mostly episodic. Each week brought a new story that was resolved by the end of the hour. Dallas changed all of that by creating ongoing storylines that continued from week to week, season to season. Suddenly, missing an episode meant missing crucial plot developments. J.R. Ewing, played by Larry Hagman, was perhaps the most important character in television history. He wasn't a traditional hero or a simple villain. He was a complex anti-hero who could be charming and ruthless, loving and manipulative, often in the same scene. J.R. was the character everyone loved to hate. But the moment that truly changed television history was the Who Shot JR? cliffhanger that ended the show's third season in 1980. For an entire summer, America debated who had pulled the trigger. When the answer was finally revealed, 83 million Americans tuned in, making it one of the most watched episodes in television history. This event proved that television could create shared cultural experiences that brought the entire country together. It also established the cliffhanger as an essential tool for television storytelling. Dallas also revolutionized how television portrayed wealth and power. The Ewings weren't just rich, they were obscenely wealthy, and the show reveled in displaying their luxury. This portrayal of wealth wasn't just entertainment, it was aspirational, offering viewers a glimpse of a world where money could solve any problem. The show's influence on television storytelling cannot be overstated. Dallas proved that audiences were hungry for complex, ongoing narratives. Every serialized drama that followed, from The Sopranos to Game of Thrones, owes a debt to Dallas. Dallas ran for 14 seasons and 357 episodes, consistently ranking among the most watched shows on television. Even today, more than 30 years after its original run ended, Dallas remains a cultural touchstone and a reminder of television's power to create shared experiences. So which of these game-changing shows do you remember watching with your family? Did we miss any 80s series that you think deserves to be on this list? Drop a comment below and let us know. We love hearing your memories and opinions about these classic shows. We'll see you next time.